Hello, my name's Eilidh and I'm an illustrator. So I illustrate all sorts of things, including books, and I created the illustrations inside Fierce, Fearless and Free. This is a collection of traditional tales from around the world featuring girls as the heroes of their own story. These tales were collected and retold wonderfully by the amazing Lari Don, and Lari has trusted me to take this event with you today. So what we're going to do is a little bit of drawing. I'm going to show you step by step how I would create an illustration for one of the stories in this book, and you can draw along with me and hopefully take some inspiration to create some illustrations of your own. So first of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the stories in this book. And when I first read them, I was struck immediately by how different they are to the traditional tales that I was familiar with. These stories don't have a handsome prince rocking up on a horse to rescue a damsel in distress. They don't have a male warrior coming in to save the day. The heroes of these tales are all girls, and these stories are thousands and thousands of years old, so that reminds us that girls have always been and still are equal to boys, just as brave, just as strong and just as clever. There's a story in here very similar to the story of Rapunzel, which you might know, but it's an Italian tale called Petronella in the Tower. So there's my illustration with Petronella in her tower, looking wistfully out and her hair flowing down. But she's not daydreaming about the prince coming to rescue her. She's daydreaming about all the adventures she could be having. And at the end of the story, Lari has her going off and travelling the world, having amazing adventures on her own and writing a postcard back to the prince, which is pretty cool. Another example of one of these stories is a tale from the Solomon Islands called Rena and the Red Stone Axe. So there's Rena rowing her canoe and there's a skull and crossed axe on this island. And basically, Rena's very badass. She goes and rescues lots of people from this island of cannibals. It's pretty hardcore and she's the inspiration for the character on the front cover as well. She's my favourite, I think. So you get an idea for the feel of this. What I would normally do, and what I did when I was illustrating this book, is I take loads of time to make sketches and notes in my sketchbook and lots of rough drawings before I settled on the final one. But we don't have a lot of time today, so we're going to dive straight in with a final illustration. So what you're going to need is a pen or pencil and some paper. You can have coloured pens and pencils if you'd like as well. I'm just going to draw with a black pen because of the time that we have, but if you want, you can add lots of colour as we go or after the event. So it's up to you, but as long as you've got a pencil or pen and a bit of paper, and it doesn't matter if it's scrap bit of paper either. You might have a nice neat new sketchbook, but equally you could just have a wee bit of scrap paper to work on. So while you get all that together, I'm going to read an excerpt from the story that we're going to illustrate, and I'll give you a wee bit of background. The story is called Medea and the Metal Man, and it's a Greek story. So what's happened is there's a big metal giant called Talos, and he's terrorising anyone that comes close to the island of Crete. He's stomping along the beach, he's throwing rocks at ships, nobody can get close, nobody can get supplies from the island, nobody can go on holiday, it's a nightmare. And we've got this ship called the Argo circling the island trying to get on, and on board is Jason and his Argonauts. So he's leading the boat and he's got his warriors, the Argonauts. And on board is one woman, her name is Medea. And all of these men warriors on the boat are having a real trouble defeating this giant. So let's see how Medea gets on. Here we go. "Stop wasting your arrows," said Medea. "I'll deal with this metal man." "How?" asked Jason. "You don't even have any weapons." "I don't need weapons. I just need my words and his weakness." "What weakness? I only see strength and size and shiny metal muscles." But Medea had already dived off the Argo and started swimming to shore. As she stepped onto the beach, she flicked her wet hair out of her face and saw a huge dark shadow around her on the sand. She rubbed water out of her eyes. The shadow was getting bigger. Medea looked up. She saw a massive metal foot crashing down towards her. She jumped out of the way as the foot thumped onto the beach. And then the other foot crashed down. She jumped out of the way of that too. Just like the ship had been zigging and zagging out to sea, Medea had to zig and zag across the beach as Talos stamped his heavy bronze feet down, trying to crush her. Talos stamped. Left, right, left, right. Medea dodged. Right, left, and Talos just missed her every time. Finally, Talos yelled, "Stand still, small human, stand still so I can stomp on you." "Why would I do that?" Medea gasped as she kept running. "'Cause I'm going to step on you eventually," shouted Talos as he kept stomping. "So you might as well save us both from this effort. Then I can get back to sinking that sneaky ship." But she kept dodging and he kept missing. "Stand still! It would be a glorious end to anyone's story to be crushed by the first metal man in history." Medea leapt to the right. It would be a memorable and heroic way to go. Crushed on a golden beach by a bronze robot. Probably better than any other way I'm likely to be remembered. But what? Stop dodging and stand still. Medea leapt to the left. But if that was to be the end of my story, it would have to be a flawless metal man who crushed me. Anything else would be embarrassing, not glorious. And I can't stand still for you because you're not flawless. And what happens is Medea finds his one flaw, which is a rusty nail in his foot, and she tricks him into standing still and she pulls it from him. And when she pulls it, his lifeblood pours out, this golden fountains of blood, and the robot is left dead on the beach and the island is safe again. So we're going to get drawing. Get your materials ready, and I'm going to start with some rough sketches to show you basically what we're going to do, and then we're going to draw the final thing. Okay. Right, okay, so we're ready to get started. Before I start drawing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little rough piece of paper and make some very quick notes and doodles so that I know what it is I'm going to draw. I would normally spend a lot longer on this stage, but because we don't have much time, I'm just going to be very quick about this. When I made illustrations for this book, I thought about 3 different things. So first of all, I thought about how the character was feeling and what sort of emotions I wanted to show, and I would show that by their facial expressions and by poses. So I think for this character, for Medea, we want her to be kind of looking a little bit defiant and quite smug because she's just defeated the giant. So I'm going to show one eyebrow arched up like that and one flat, that's her nose and her eyes kind of narrow and looking to the side, and she's going to have a little smug smile on her face because I think that's going to show that she's just defeated him. And she's going to have one hand on her hip, and I think her other arm is going to be holding that rusty nail up like that, and her legs standing apart. She's standing strong and defiant. So that's roughly how she's going to be. The second thing I think about is setting the scene. So that would be what we could include from the story to help show a little bit more about it. So I'm going to include some swirling waves, I think maybe creating a bit of a border, and of course that rusty nail, and I think also that giant's foot's going to be at the side. He's going to be in the background because he's not important anymore. She's won and defeated him, but we're going to show him there, so that iron giant's going to be there. And then finally, composition. So that would be how all of the things are put together on the page. So we've got our iron giant's foot there, we've got Medea right in the middle because she's the most important, and then we've got these swirling waves that are going to create the border, and I think I'm also going to include the golden blood flowing like a fountain from the hole where she's pulled the nail, and that's going to create the top half of the border. So now I know what I'm doing, and I hope you're ready too with a pen or pencil. You can draw along with me, or you can just watch what I draw and then create your drawing afterwards. It's totally up to you. But here we go. So I'm going to start with that face. I always start with the face when I'm drawing. It's fine if you want to start with the feet or the hands or something else. But there's the edge of her face there, and I'm going to do the most important part I want to get right is that facial expression. So there's that one flat eyebrow, and here's her nose coming down, and then I've got that one big arched eyebrow to the side. It's a very knowing look that she's got. Her eyes are kind of like half circles. They're flat at the top and then rounded at the bottom, and she's looking to the side. So it's a very kind of smug, knowing side eye that she's giving there, and her little smile is also off to the side. There's her lips because she's just defeated that giant. So there we go. And then I'm going to just do the first part of her hairline. She's got very wavy hair. Remember, she's just been running, so her hair might be a little bit messy. Don't know about you, but I've got quite long hair, and when I've been running it certainly looks quite messy. So there's her hair started there. Now I'm going to draw the edge of her body. So there's one line coming down. She's sort of jutting her hip out a little bit, and it comes right down to her foot, which is planted on the ground. And I'm going to stop the line there because I want to draw her wearing a toga. And a toga is something that maybe if you look at pictures of Greek gods and goddesses, you might see them wearing togas, sort of a wraparound clothing. So I've got her in quite traditional Greek clothing there. So there's her hands, and her thumb is just behind her body. So if you want to put your hand on your own hip as a test, you'd see that your thumb goes behind your hip and your 4 fingers come round the front. And then that's the other side of her body coming down like this, to her flat foot pointed out the other way. And again, I'm stopping it up there so I can draw her clothing. But let's get this other line in for her arm. So her other arm's up in the air, holding that rusty nail defiant like a trophy. Now drawing her hand, that's a tricky part. Hands are difficult. So what I would do is hold a pencil in my hand and see how my fingers look while I'm holding that pencil or pen. And that's how she's going to be wrapped around the nail. So there's the 4 fingers wrapped around that nail. This is quite rough, going straight in with pen and no pencil here. And then her thumb goes up the side, and the bottom of the nail is kind of in front of her arm there. So it's big, remember. It'll be small to the giant, but it'll be very big to Medea. And you can just see the nail at the bottom there, and then it comes up through her hand like that. So here we go. So now I'm going to start adding the detail. Now the toga is going to wrap around her, so it's going to cross over the neckline there, and then it's going to cross over her legs like that. I'm going to have her wearing sort of Greek sandals, or they're a little bit like ballet shoes in that they kind of wrap around the legs in like a zigzag pattern. So there's the shoes part, and then they sort of triangle zigzags up her legs, down like that, and up this side, down that side. Oh, it's also a little bit like Scottish country dancing shoes, if you've ever seen them. There we go, give them colouring quickly. And I'm going to add a little bit of detail here, but you can spend a lot more time over adding detail and decoration to her clothes. It's my favourite part, to be honest. I'm going to give her some bracelets. And if I was doing this in colour, I think I'd imagine these as gold bracelets. And she's going to have a matching belt. And the decoration is going to be these sort of circles all the way across. You can just see around her hand there. A little trim on her toga. There we go. And next I'm going to add detail on her hair. So again, if you look at pictures of Greek gods and goddesses, you'll see that quite often they're wearing sort of a crown of leaves. So I'm going to do her wearing this crown. And again, if I was doing it in colour, I might add this as gold or perhaps green. But you can choose whatever colours you like. I find that quite a difficult part. I could spend forever choosing colours for things. Oh, and another one of my favourite parts is drawing the hair. So now I would go around adding lots and lots of swirly lines for the hair. And you don't need to be neat and tidy for this because, as we said, she's in a bit of a mess. Her hair is all over the place from having dodged a giant's foot for the past hour or so. She might have a couple of strands flying off to the side there. And I think it's going to be roughly pulled back in a sort of ponytail. So there's the bobble holding her hair in place. There we go. I'm being very messy with this. You can be a lot neater. And we're going to have these curls coming down behind her arm, curly wavy hair, and her ponytail's quite long, I think, so we'll bring it down like that. So you can add lots more detail and colour to that, but now we've got Medea standing defiant, holding this nail. Let's include the edge of the giant's foot. Now it's good that he's in the background because, as we said, he's no longer important to us. Medea is the winner. So if you draw a sort of right angle like this, half of his foot's going to be hidden by our swirly border, and then just repeat the same shape underneath, and then a line joining those two corners, and a line joining these two corners, and now we've got our sort of box shape. And I imagine he's made up of lots of sheets of bronze, all stitched together with nails and bolts. So that's all the lines holding them together, and there's lots of nails here. And of course, we've got one big empty hole where Medea has pulled the rusty nail free. So next we're going to do our border. I'm just going to draw the ground where he's lying behind her. I have got a different colour now. I'm going to use blue for these swirly waves that come around the bottom. Now this swirly wave pattern is one of my favourite things to draw. It took me a while to kind of develop it. So you can watch what I do and have a practice on paper, or you can go straight ahead and do this with me. But if you just take a point just to the side of the foot here, and this is going to be the centre of your swirl. So you start here, and then you're just going to take your pen and you're going to curl and curl and curl. Big swirly curly wave pattern. You can do as many as you like, but don't go right to the edge of the foot yet. Leave a little gap. And then you're going to change direction and you're going to come round to the bottom and create another swirl. So what happens here is you've got this curly line. Now you want to make this into a solid shape. So if you come back up to this first swirl and then round like this, you sort of end up with a rope shape almost. And now you're going to take the pen from just above that point and you're going to create another swirl. This one can be slightly smaller or slightly larger. You can be quite rough with this. You don't need to be too careful. But again, just bring another line round so it becomes a solid shape. And then again, from just above that solid line you just left, take another swirl. So now I'm speeding up a bit, but you can watch this again and again and decide how much time you want to take, how many swirls you want to do. And just practice, practice, practice means that you'll start to create these swirly shapes in your sleep. They're so much fun. They're quite relaxing to create, I find. So I'm going to take this swirling wave pattern all the way up the side until it comes almost as high as Medea herself. So these waves have been crashing around the shore Maybe it's quite a blustery day, or maybe the giant stomping around has caused the waves to crash up, who knows. But there we go, and I'm going to show some little splashes coming off the side here as well, just to show that this is water. And now I'm going to take my orange pen, which is going to show this golden blood, and we're going to do the same shape, but it's going to come spurting out of the hole from where she's ripped the rusty nail. So here we go, up in one great big circle like that, and then I'm going to take that line round to make it a solid shape. And now I'm going to take this line all the way up and make another spiral and turn it back into a solid shape. And then again, just as we did before. So you can have as much fun with this pattern as you like. You could create it going all the way around. You can just add a few little lines to join it onto the waves, or suggest it going behind the waves. And again, we could have some more spurts of blood coming off like this as well. So that's all I'm going to do for now. I want you to go away and have fun with this, adding lots of colour, decoration, and hopefully it's given you some ideas to create some of your own illustrations. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that drawing session. I only wish I could see what you've come up with. I bet you've created some really lovely stuff. And now that you've got a bit more time, you could perhaps think about making sketches and notes about some of the other stories and creating some of your own illustrations for those. Or you could add detail and colour to the one that you started today. If you're not happy with what you've drawn, don't worry, just don't throw it away. I never throw away any drawings that I'm unhappy with. I like to look at them, see what I don't like, and then the next drawing guaranteed will be better, so you can have another go. And we've also got activity sheets available to go along with this book. I've created spot the difference sheets and some colouring in sheets as well. And this is my personal favourite, a big empty frame for you to come up with your own fierce, fearless and free character. So that could be someone you know, it could be someone from one of the tales in the book. It could be an entirely made up character come up from your imagination, or it could be you. Perhaps you're the hero of your own story. But whatever you decide to do, just have fun. Okay, thanks.